Action.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another one of our Through My Lens shows. We want to talk to you guys about SB509 today. SB509 is a Senate bill that came before one of the Senate committees, joint committees, on guess what day? Memorial Day, a holiday, a special meeting. Not very many people there because they were probably out enjoying Memorial Day. But we're going to talk about it here, talk about the Oakland A's interest into moving to Las Vegas and their request to ask for our money. I said our meaning that we are the public, and they want up to $380 million of taxpayer money to help build what they are trying to call a community asset. So we're going to talk about it around the table here. My friend Kyle, my other friend Dave, you guys know Dave for sure, but I want you guys to listen to the intro and to the summary of what happened, and then we're going to come back and drill down a little bit and get in some details. Thank you.
Nevada Bill SB 509. Nevada Bill SB 509 proposes up to $380 million in public funding to help construct a $1.5 billion, 30,000-seat stadium for the athletics baseball team on the Las Vegas Strip. The bill has been presented as a significant investment opportunity for the state and a way to further establish Las Vegas as the sports capital of the country, with supporters emphasizing the creation of thousands of jobs and the establishment of a publicly owned community asset. The funding package is described as being fiscally responsible, with no new taxes being imposed on Nevada residents or guests. Built-in guarantees are intended to protect the public investment, including reserves to backstop repayments of the public funds. The public funds for the stadium would come from a combination of transferable tax credits issued by the state and public bonds issued by Clark County, to be paid off through tax revenues generated by the stadium via Sports and Entertainment Improvement District. However, the bill has faced opposition, with critics noting that the funding for the stadium could be better used for other community needs like education and housing. In addition, there has been pushback regarding the A's team's track record and concerns about their commitment to community benefits. The bill proposes that construction of the stadium would begin in 2024 or 2025 and complete in 2028. It's estimated that the stadium could draw more than 2.6 million people annually, including an average of 28,000 attendees per baseball game, despite the team's current low attendance rankings.
Okay, welcome back again, Kyle and Dave.
Yes, sir.
So based on what we know, a long Memorial Day marathon hearing, the Senate committee did not vote. I think they are expecting them to vote again. That's why I wanted to weigh in, get some other opinions. But so let's go back to the root, because we do have a little bit of experience because of the Oakland Raiders, now Las Vegas Raiders, that came here and made a bunch of promises as to what they were going to do. And this thing called, one of the few things we want to talk about, the Community Benefits Plan, quote unquote, for small business. So I know you echoed many times at those meetings before that subcommittee that you wanted some numbers. So enlighten us a little bit about what your concern was then, what has happened since, and how do we prevent the Oakland A's, if they're fortunate enough to get the votes, to make sure that they don't dupe the public and screw the majority. We know they got to satisfy the unions because they've already signed labor contracts. But as far as the minority, the African American, and others, nothing. Crickets. I listened to the meeting for over 5 hours the other day and didn't hear anybody mention African Americans after all that our ancestors have done to the country, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But talk to us about the Raiders when they came and what kind of stopgaps, checks and balances you think we should or could put in place.
Well, number one,
as you mentioned, I did go before the Stadium Authority, this group of, I think it's 7 people, 1 black on there. And then they also, this is all by legislation, the other thing was the community benefits plan. And I'll read you real quickly the background on that. The community benefits plan, better known as the plan, has been developed by the Las Vegas Stadium Events Company, LLC developer, pursuant to 2.9 and 31.5 of the Southern Nevada Tourism and Improvement Act, ensures that the greatest possible participation by all segments of the community in the economic opportunities available in connection with the design, construction, operation of the National Football Stadium being developed by the developer, collectively called the project. Now, you asked me, what did we get out of that? Well, I went before the Stadium Authority as well as the Benefits Committee, and the first thing I asked them was, what are we getting, and I'm talking about black folks, and I said it as such. And I said, I could see people getting a little angry and perturbed, so I said, you know what, when I go back, I'm gonna say, give me an ethnic and gender breakdown of opportunities as vendors, working on the construction project, and concessions at the stadium. I basically got nothing and was told that they don't have to give me that. Essentially, I'm like, are you kidding me? And this is what bothers me, Frankie, is this is as we know, it's a public-private partnership. $750 million came from room tax dollars to put into that stadium. And here we are, 49th in education in the country, and we spend it, and don't get me wrong, I'm an advocate of sports. My wife is a Raider fan. I'm a 49er fan. But the bottom line is, people get excited, Frank, and I cast no aspersions on those friends who have bought season tickets. Right. I understand. Me and my wife could afford to do it too. But I don't want to step foot inside that stadium until, at least tell us. I know we got screwed. But people say, how do you know that? Because if black folks haven't got screwed, Frank, to me, they will give those numbers. Easily, it just roll off their lips. Why not?
Well, I would ask and answer the question this way. There's only one company that I know that worked out there, and that was a security company that is African American owned. Other than that, how would you get a African American subcontractor out at the site or general contractor if it's all union? So most small business is going to be non-union.
Right.
Non-union don't have a choice. They don't have a say. And I do know from the last time I appeared before the legislature to oppose us giving the Raiders $750 million, even though I support them coming here, I don't want to give them my money.
Exactly.
And the county, through the former governor, turned around and raised our taxes so that our property taxes was measured from the county building as opposed to from the stadium in the Foul Mount Raiders. So my issue was, okay, you're going to come, you said you're going to create partnerships, but when they signed up signatory to the union, everybody else got left out.
That's right.
So now we go from construction to operations. I don't know of any. I've heard there are two out there, but I don't know that to be true.
Let me say
African American.
about on the construction side. I know a guy. He only got 2 trucks. But see, these little people got pushed out. Well, you only been in business 3 years. What the heck has that got to do with somebody driving a doggone truck? Now his drivers had significant years of experience driving because he had only been in business 3 years versus the 5. No. You don't get
and the second thing that hurts is the bond. So if you got to bond the job, and you don't typically have a bond, and as you're an ethnic or a non-union contractor, depending on what kind of work you're doing. But if you go out there, now you got to pay union wage. So, and layoff is payoff for the union. Oh yeah. So, now you're in a financial crunch, and if you miss that pay cycle, you're really screwed.
You're going down the tubes.
Plus, I don't know of anyone in Nevada. It would have been nice, similar to this baseball stadium. So they've already signed contracts. So guess what that means? They must already have a general contractor.
You know they do.
Yeah.
So a few weeks ago, they talked about the site going over at the Wild Wild West Fertitta site.
Right, because
Right.
initially, all the information that came out, and my wife was just going crazy. As you know, she served a few months up there in that legislature, said them people don't care. And why would you put it on the strip? It's already
Yeah.
congested. Now they done moved on, supposedly, right now they're negotiating
Trump
on
County.
the
Trump
other
County.
side of 15.
Right.
Man, come on. Either way, we have got to keep our eyes on things, Frank, and again, the accountability for our elected officials, I don't care if they're black or white, they got to be
Right.
held accountable. And stop just going along with the program. And for black folks, and I'm saying this because I've been in the suit, in that seat where you got to not be afraid to say, you know what, I need something for black folks, because Frank, when we filed complaint against the city of Las Vegas, all they talked about was minority. We said, no. We're talking about black folks here. When you get put into that mix, casting no aspersions on any other ethnic groups,
Right.
we get left out.
That's right.
Yep.
Continues to
That's
happen.
Yep.
Here it is,
Yeah.
2023.
Yep.
Same thing.
Yeah.
What you think, Kyle?
Well, I know that they said, or at least with the Raiders Stadium, that they're bringing in local vendors and stuff like that. But a lot of the vendors that I see, it's like the Wynn or like restaurants that I see in Summerlin. There's a whole rest of the city that's not represented at that place. So I feel like there's some level of game being played where, yeah, they're supporting the local community, but it seems like it's just a part of the local community.
Yeah.
And I would like to not see that
And
next.
let me add this. I know a guy, and I won't call his name. He was going to have a hamburger venue out there. And when he looked at what they wanted him to sign, he didn't have no rights. And they was going to hire the people, but he had to sign
That's
the
the way
checks.
it-
And he said,
that's the way it
no.
worked.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a stadium, I guess, concession group that
Yep.
works throughout the country.
That's right.
And
That's
they
another
got,
problem.
they got a monopoly on it.
That's
You
right.
want to play, you sign this dotted line right here, and that's
Right.
ridiculous.
Yep.
Right.
No changes to the contract. So they say 1,000 jobs,
Mhm.
but they don't say for how long. So it took, what, 2.5 years to build a stadium?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we saying 1,000 jobs, that's gonna put you to work for 2 years, and then you're out. Then, now you only have a job when you have an event,
Yeah.
right? So there are 82 baseball games,
Oh.
and then they said that the A's are now drawing 2,000 to 5,000 people at a game,
Right,
but we're gonna build a stadium that hosts 30,000 people.
right.
Now, so are we not building the state? See, that could be some things we don't know. Are we not building the stadium for the A's?
Right.
We're building a stadium for the
Something
Las
else.
Vegas tourists
Right.
to
Right,
give them somewhere to go,
right.
Right.
right?
Right.
There's not
Because
enough to do.
in my experience in Raider history, there's never been a game where there was more jerseys from the opposing
Oh,
team
man.
than the home team
Man, we used
until
to-
this past
We used
year
to go to games.
in Raider Stadium in Las Vegas.
Right,
Right.
So the Las Vegas fans,
Uh,
and I tell people all the time, we're accustomed to winning.
Yeah.
We don't like losers.
oh no.
Yeah.
So if I have tickets and I can sell them, and they're making money, they're doing the same thing the other capitalists, the Raiders are doing, and the hotels are doing.
Careless.
Exactly.
So the people are selling their tickets,
Right.
and now you go to a game, and the majority of those
Out of
folks are from outside the state.
Right.
Well, again, according to what my wife looked up, they're supposed to be bringing in, this is one of the benefits, again, 620 million annually, then 6,000 permanent jobs for Southern Nevada. Now, the question to me, and also, and I'm not an attorney, and this is an 11-page document. Also, Frank, they said every so often, I think it starts after the first 2 years and then 5 years or 3 years, don't quote me on that, but there's supposed to be an audit done. I'm waiting on to see the first audit. Because the audit's supposed to cover everything, the operation, who was working there, this, that, and the other.
Yep.
It's going to tell a serious story.
When I brought that up for the Raiders, because I said if we're giving them all this money and we're partners, we should share in the revenue.
Right.
Right.
And the NFL say we will no, we're not having that.
Well,
The
thank God.
one good thing I'm glad they did is they signed a 30-year agreement, because originally the Raiders only had a 5-year agreement, but we had 30-year bonds.
Yeah.
So at least this time they got that right.
They matched
They
it.
got a 30-year bond right to match the 30-year contract. So this whole thing about no new taxes, that's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
So for example, they say the state is going to issue tax credits.
Yeah.
So that means the state is gonna take revenue
From taxes.
from taxes to give to them.
Right.
Or you pay me the money, I'm gonna give you a tax credit, businesses, against your employment tax, against your Secretary of State tax,
Yeah.
any tax that we charge you money, and you don't have to pay that because you gave this money that we gave to the stadium.
You're obviously very thorough in school on that, Frank. I am not that sharp, but I tell you what, one thing I do know, it's easy to say, here are the numbers, here are the folks that of all the ethnic groups who participate and live in the city of Las Vegas, state of Nevada. That should be easy, man, I'm telling you. Larry Powell, who just passed away, he was a fire marshal. One thing that Larry and I did, we did what they call developed by a fire service professional called coins. Do the coins report. The coins is Caucasians,
Okay.
Orientals, Indians, and they call us Negroes at the time. We did the coins report, Frank, and we said to ourselves, looking at these numbers, if we don't raise some cane, it'll be 30 years before a black become a chief officer, and we start raising hell. And so my point is, the numbers are there, and all they gotta do is just produce them. Cause I know, and it's not about Dave Washington. It's about us collectively as a people who live in this community.
Right.
We just want our fair share. So
But who's gonna speak for the people? I watched that meeting, like I say, 4.5, 5 hours, and not one person did I see. I saw people speak up for the union. I saw people speak up for teachers. I saw people speak up for advocates and homeless and affordable housing. I didn't see nobody speak up for black people.
In preparing, because you told me, man, you better do your homework. In preparing, Frank, I looked at the numbers. We're between 12 and 14%. I'm talking about black folks.
Okay.
But guess who's next? And I ain't real Asians. They're almost 11%. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So my point is, and we know when you talk about national legislation, that the Asian crime bill,
It's quick.
I joined some group, man, because I look at stuff, I get a lot of stuff, man. It's called the Committee of 100. The Asian people, man, businessmen, professors, blah, 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 they got that bill through just like that.
Right.
And they still waiting on the George Floyd. So it's about who is pushing it.
It's about power.
It's about the power.
Yeah.
And who can lobby. And when you talk about lobbying for any bill, I don't care what it is, you better have some money.
Yeah.
Well, see, now we go back to capitalism again.
Right.
Capitalism is about power,
No doubt.
right?
That's right.
And then you taking that power and using it for your political good.
Let me tell
And
you.
your political good in business is all about profit.
See, I know Frank,
And labor.
And Frank is such a business person. Sometimes I send him stuff because I'm out there riding that van. I be listening to all kind of stuff. Frank say, I ain't got time to listen to that. But this dude, and I keep telling Marsha, what you don't understand about capitalism, you see the bill that just passed,
Which one?
the ceiling deal.
Oh, yeah.
What do you call it?
Oh, the debt
Debt
ceiling.
ceiling.
But
Yeah.
the debt ceiling. But
Yeah.
guess who still got money? They wasn't a higher percentage as people would like. But the military. We are a war nation. And
Yeah.
guess who? I tell my wife, I say, you don't understand what's happening in Ukraine. But every time one of them bombs is dropped, they just build another one. And guess who is it? Lockheed Martin,
Yep.
McDonnell Douglas. Those are multinational corporations, man.
Yeah.
And it's all driven by capitalism, like you
That's
said,
right.
Frank.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
about the
machine.
money.
That's right.
So you can give money to Ukraine, and it's gonna flow right back into some American companies
Yeah.
and others.
So have y'all, either one of y'all heard, I'm gonna divert for a quick
Sure.
second, that prior to the current president of Ukraine, they
Okay.
had another president. And Mr. Putin from Russia gave them $50 billion.
I remember you saying.
And then the United States was involved in getting a new president elected.
I see.
And the reason for the big fight is
They
that
reneged.
he took the 50 million,
They
and
reneged.
50 billion, and didn't play the game. That's right.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So it's so much. So I often reflect on how much do we really know,
Yeah.
and do we really know anything?
No.
Nah, never.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Frank,
because what they feed us
Frank, I
and
think
what they tell us.
I think I told you this when I was serving as president, fire chief.
Mm.
Somebody sent me a book about that thick, and it talked about all the garbage from the IRS being. Everybody thinks that's they're not federal government; it's a private organization, and all the other different committees that they have and what they do. Oh man, America, we are something, and then we turn around, and there was a, there's this brother I was listening to yesterday, Frank. He talks about how America wants to put embargoes on, is it Uganda, because of the gay bill, or whatever they call it. Yeah. Anyway, and then they said, what about Sudan and all the rest of these Muslim countries that say, if you come out, and I'm not casting aspersions on folks who are gay.
Right.
That's who they are.
Right.
But the bottom line is, America, if you're gonna do that to the brothers in Africa,
Yeah, across the ocean.
Yeah.
Right.
You ain't doing it to them guys over there in them Muslim countries, and you know how they feel about it.
Yep.
But America said, we're going to embargo you, and the dude said, we ain't thinking about y'all. We're going to keep on working with Russia. We're going to work with China.
BRICS.
America.
Yeah.
So some other community advocates, we're going to get back on track.
Yeah, I know,
Some
man.
other community advocates talked about the need, as opposed to the legislature granting them $380 million up to. We have more needs than that, especially as it relates to what y'all mentioned earlier, education.
Housing.
We're 49th out of 50 states.
Right.
Yeah.
Homelessness.
Right.
We see homeless everywhere.
Everywhere.
You can't get away.
Yeah.
And education.
Yeah.
So housing, education, and homelessness.
Yeah.
What do you think? Should we spend the $380 million with the Raiders? I mean, with the A's, or should we take some of that and divert it, or shall we put a certain dollar amount as an idea on the ticket price? Every ticket, that certain amount of money goes to a fund that is set up, controlled by the county, that not the stadium authority,
Right.
by the county, to deal with the social issues. Another piece of money from a ticket sale goes to the state to put in the teachers fund, just like they deal with marijuana. When the people voted, $10 million a year supposed to go into the fund to go back to the school district.
Right.
Now I understand they was deficient a few years, but supposedly they done caught up as the state
That is
to their rainy day fund.
That is a novel. That is a novel idea, man. That hopefully will take some traction, because people are going to go, and if we're gonna do that, and more times than not, they're gonna do it.
Right.
But put something on there that will bring something back to those issues that we have, like you say, education, homelessness. That's a novel idea.
I think with education and housing, though, those, when you create security for that, I think you also create mobility. Because I think Vegas is intentionally, maybe this is me breaking a rule, but Vegas, I think, is intended to make sure that the locals stay here to continue working in the workforce, instead of going off to college and becoming different, entrepreneurs and business people and stuff like that outside of the city.
Right.
So I think that maybe bringing too much education to the city maybe goes against the city's MO.
Well,
And I don't agree with that.
It's against their best interest. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So I like what you said, because in the hearing, the folks representing the A's and political operatives said, this is a great opportunity for Nevada's workers, because we have some of them now work at the Raider Stadium.
Right.
Then they leave there and go over to the basketball, right? Or they work events at the convention center.
Yeah.
This is just a natural. Then they can go and work at the A's.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there thinking,
This was people were
they
saying.
said that in the public
Wow.
record,
They're putting
and
it
I
on
didn't hear
table.
anybody opposing. I'm thinking,
Are you
well, do you
serious?
know? Oh, and that's another reason for the not super speed train, the monorail,
Right.
Yeah.
because they can jump from here and just take it and jump right off and go to work. But all that time in between that they're going to lose and not get paid for.
Right.
And if we're talking about a living wage, are we saying that the owners who make billions are going to pay these people thousands?
Yeah.
So they want to say a living wage, but the baseball player or the professional athlete
Right.
make hundreds of millions.
Mm-hmm.
The owner make billions,
That's right.
Yeah.
and then the worker makes nothing.
Maybe.
True capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, every time I go into Walmart, I want to throw up when I see the Raiders and what's the hockey. Man, come on, man.
But the hockey team is privately funded, 100%.
Oh yeah. No, I agree
Yeah.
from that standpoint.
And they winning.
But I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Oh, yeah,
Nevada, you gotta be a winner.
We got to be a winner.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about in terms of the money, like you say, everybody think these athletes got it going on, but when you look at the owners, man, all these different points of revenue that come in, man, it's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all make more money from television revenue than any of the tickets they
to
sell.
your point, Frank, if the hockey group can do that, why can't the others?
They can.
Yeah,
they can.
but if I can sucker you into using public dollars,
That's right.
and y'all
That's the
and your leadership just roll over, what
Why
you
not?
gonna do, bro?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna
take the
take your money.
opportunity.
Why would I use my own? Because
Right.
these cats can do that, man.
Yeah.
Because how are they sustaining is what I like to know. Because I heard in the piece, you know, that what's going on in Oakland. What did they say? 5,000-6,000
Yeah.
Yeah.
At a game.
at a game.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then we and what is their stadium up there? What is their stadium? You remember?
It's one of the third largest.
Third largest.
Yeah.
And you're gonna reduce it down.
Yep.
But yet all they can draw is 6,000-8,000, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
That's, man, come on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to share something with you and
Okay.
get your opinion, and then we'll go to break and come back. Okay.
All right.
So, back in the day, when we first started talking about giving African Americans a bite at the apple,
Okay.
rewarding us for all of what America has done to our ancestors. They came out, created a minority business program. So if we had 10 people in the room, and everybody in the room is black, then, and there's 5 contracts, so 100%
Yeah.
is going to be awarded to black African Americans.
Right.
Sometimes it was only 85 or 90. I don't know how that worked. Maybe they just didn't award one. They pulled it back. Then we moved to minority set aside
Yeah.
because we started adding other minorities. Now instead of having 10 blacks, now you got 10 women.
Right. 20.
That's 20 in the room.
Yeah.
You got 10 contracts.
Right.
You would think we would get at least half.
Right.
Well, and typically we got only half. So you've already diluted us
Right.
by 50%.
Yeah.
Then they came out with affirmative action. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Convinced everybody the greatest thing since ice water.
Yep.
Affirmative action. Now we got 40 people in the room, 10 of them black. You only get 4 contracts.
Right.
Then they came up with diversity, equality, and inclusion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now we got 60 people, 80 people in the room.
Yeah.
Now we walk out of there with less than 20%. And now this new program, social equity.
Yep.
We don't say no minority, nothing.
No.
Social equity.
Yeah.
We're going to come out of there with less than 10%.
Yep.
And now, I just heard about this new one a couple years ago, community benefits plan, small business.
Yeah.
So you see where we've come from since the 70s? The community benefits program for small business, black people, African American ain't even mentioned. So it's not designed to give you a contract.
No.
No.
It's, in fact, based on what they have done since the 70s, systematically, capitalism has diluted the African American participation to a point where there is no participation.
Yeah.
Now I just like for somebody to show me something. Maybe they'll show the paperwork, maybe they'll show the books. But we already know, based on the requirements and what they were building and the time frame they were under, that I don't know of anybody that could have went out there, paid that money, hired the people, kept up with the contract that looked like us.
I'm gonna start calling you Dr. Hawkins. And no, seriously, you know when people get honorary and not putting folks down.
I want honorary.
Hold on. The reason why they get them is because of the work that they do.
Yeah.
And the work is comparable to people who've actually gone to class.
Sure.
So when a person get some people, honorary, that ain't nothing. Oh, man, you better go check and see the work that they've done.
Right.
And my point to that, Frank, is what you have stated, man, makes so much sense because we have gotten, everything has been watered down. For example, and I'll be talking to this more about it on my show, Veterans Affairs Plus. We have been so watered down, man, with equity and inclusion stuff. It just keeps changing. For example, when I came on the fire department, I came just before actually affirmative action. I was hired under what's called the Emergency Employment Act. And guess what? But underemployed, unemployed, which meant anybody.
That's right.
Because as many white guys got hired on the same program that was supposed to originally be set up for black folks.
Yeah.
They keep changing.
Yeah.
And it's not going to stop. Anybody think it's going to stop? But we must. And I admire you, Frank, and I tell you this, and I don't mind saying it publicly on this show. I admire business people, man, because you got to scratch.
Yeah.
You got to scratch every day, because if you don't, man, you're going down, and you got to watch, and I know you watch the legislation of what's going on in your industry, because if you don't, they're going to come up with some program
Oh yeah, that hurt you.
Yeah.
to include, what is it, the social equity for the consumption lounge?
Mhm.
Man, it's a
Yeah.
bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know it.
But you know what? When it fails,
Yeah.
we
We
try.
tried. That's right. We even gave them extension,
Yeah.
but it was designed to fail.
Yes.
Exactly.
And see, man, and that's the sad part. So
Let
collectively,
me ask you a question this
Sure.
way.
Mhm.
So we know there's no participation in construction.
Mhm. Very
Yeah.
low.
So we know there's no participation in professional services.
Yeah. Right.
Architects, engineers, right?
Right.
Because somebody's already designed the stadium,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. So now, stadium's built. We got 500 people in the community.
Mhm.
Pies, cakes, restaurants,
Mhm.
soul food, ethnic.
Right.
There's no room for them because now they've given that contract, as you said earlier, to a national company that does this in stadiums across the country.
Mhm.
Right.
Now, in order to get into that stadium, you have to serve a specific food.
Right.
And our food may not meet the kind of bill they want.
It ain't
And
gonna
when
be-
it does, as you eloquently stated, there's a contract that you need 2 lawyers to read because it does not matter. You have to pay them a fee whether you make a nickel or not.
Right.
And they, in a way, might be worse than the bank because they are not going to allow you not to pay.
Right.
Right.
Frank, I have not looked at the numbers in a long time, but I assure you, Glazers, who are, the window guys,
Mhm.
I don't care if it's plumbers, you name it, in those industries, they have traditionally locked us out. I would love to see our numbers in plumbing, electrician. I'd love to see those because that's the entry point because, like you say, they're only going to deal with labor unions
That's right.
Right.
at those establishments.
Well, let me ask this. You got to be old to remember this.
Good.
Do you remember when, in order to get into the union, you had to have a referral?
That's right.
You had to be brought in.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
So if we wasn't in,
Yeah.
then we ain't know nobody how we gonna get in because we don't get no referral.
Yeah, you know referral.
So that's again the capitalist system.
Mm-hmm.
My daddy was a banker.
Mhm.
More than likely, I'm gonna be a banker.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
My daddy a garbage man. More than likely, I'm gonna be a garbage man.
Yeah.
Right? My neighbor next door, daddy runs a casino. More than likely, I can hang with my boy and get a job in the casino.
That's right.
Oh, I want to go through a training program.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all y'all, all Johnny's brothers and kids and that. Come on, y'all went
We
to
gonna
college.
fix
We're
this
gonna
up.
put you in this training program.
Right.
But we don't have them resources.
That's right. That's right. And I'm telling you, man, it just intrigues me. And you know what? I'm gonna start doing some looking because I like. And one thing, Frank, I always say, man, don't come on this show just talking trash, man. You better have some numbers. So I'm gonna start looking at these labor unions because I want to see. I assure you that the numbers aren't good for us, and that's an entry point into these big contracts that from the casinos that are being built
Right.
to anything else that's major. Labor got it locked up, and I ain't mad at them.
Sure.
Like my son-in-law started a program. He has an app where you can go on and work at various communities. It's a hospitality app, and guess whose ring he had to kiss to get it going?
You better not name
Labor.
it. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, you better be careful. They might cancel this contract.
No. He had to deal with labor, and he understood. I said, man, the first thing, because he asked me what I thought, man, I think it's great, but you got to go talk with labor because if you don't get labor's stamp on stuff like that,
Right.
it ain't happening.
So why isn't
Yeah, big
nobody
entity.
ever asked us for our stamp?
They don't control anything.
We don't control nothing.
Yeah.
We don't own nothing.
Right.
We don't have no political power.
Right.
We don't have no group power.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you that many years ago, and you're familiar with with our company, New Ventures Capital Development Corporation. When we had that first downturn in the economy, President Obama was, we wrote him a letter saying, you know, this stimulus money, can we get a piece of it, because we do loan packaging for various groups, but particularly we want to look out for some black folks. Also, we got a form letter back. He ain't even read it, man, because he didn't answer the question. Right. Then we're sitting to Congressional Black Caucus. Guess what, young man? They didn't even have the decency to answer us. I guess say, heck with them cats, man.
Wow.
Now, you would think that what we do, that they would be interested in it. They didn't give us a time of day. So can't nobody tell me nothing about the Congressional Black Caucus. They are worthless. They just like everybody else. And I know people, oh, Dave, watch. People gonna, when they see it, oh, Dave should have said that. Well, hell, it's true. I gotta look at and see what they brought.
It's
man.
true through your lens.
Well, see,
Because can't nobody challenge you on that. You know, they can say whatever, we ain't gotta have no paper. But that's how you see things.
Well,
they can't challenge that.
Well, I'll say this. There are some folks, there's a few folks that they've given a few crumbs to.
Sure.
So they ain't gonna say a word. They're just gonna shuffle along with the program. Because, you know, I got this little bit right here, man. I ain't worried about the rest of it.
So I got a question for you. So I like to share this kind of information because I think it's important. Our ancestors fought in every war that America's ever had.
That's right.
We're the only group that's ever done that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Our ancestors.
That's right.
Yeah.
No group has ever been enslaved through chattel slavery like our ancestors.
That's right.
Right.
Nobody.
No.
Yeah.
As I explained earlier, they continue to dilute every program they design that's supposed to help us.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
They've got all kind of programs, and then what was it, the Community Reinvestment Act for banking?
Right.
Yeah.
All it was, look, I'm gonna buy a table at your banquet, NAACP, Martin Luther King Committee, not casting aspersions on those guys, because they're trying to get some revenues to whatever, do their programming, etc.
Yeah.
But that covers them by law. You ain't really done nothing by buying a doggone table for a banquet. Give me a break.
And they wouldn't have done that if they didn't have to. They felt.
Right. But
Anyway, let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
So what I think is that African Americans, they talk about reparations, African Americans in the United States must have their own program. I'm not against everybody else being in the groups they in.
Right.
But we, because nobody's done what our ancestors done, should have our own.
Yeah.
Just us.
Yeah.
All right. Now I got a question for you. What is the greatest percentage that you can remember in all of the years being on the fire department that there were African American? What's the largest African American percentage? 5, 10, 15, 20? 15 was the, and how many years do you think that lasted?
Not very.
Okay.
Not very
So,
long.
you know, Clark County had their graduating class.
Yes, I just heard about that.
80 some odd people.
Right.
5 black men, 1 black woman.
Yeah.
And folks were saying, that's great. That's super. I looked, I said, what? That's not even 10%.
Yeah.
I said, but you want to see how capitalism works? Let's flip that and make that 1 white woman, 5 white males, and 80 black.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
They
different thing.
they would throw the course out. They wouldn't promote nobody.
Right.
They'd accuse everybody of fraud and thievery.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Frank, you know, something that you mentioned earlier, and I failed to talk about it, but we talk about affirmative action and how it's kind of went into other things now. Affirmative action is dead on arrival. It's going to be addressed by the Supreme Court this month. And it's gone. But even though
It's gone anyway.
so what?
Yeah.
Because it was dead on arrival when
That's
it got
right.
here. Because when you look at the numbers, man, and everybody crying about, oh, affirmative action, we're trying to bring balance. And that was our biggest argument when we filed our complaint against the city. We just want a level playing field, that's all. And me and Larry Powell, as I mentioned at his services, and I can see some people getting, why would he say that the man is dead? But me and Larry used to laugh about it. On Saturdays, we go in the office, brother, we go through all the files. And guess what we found? Oh boy, They was dogging us left and right. And we just turned it over to our attorney, Jim Reporter, and we wore them out.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't get a lot of money, but guess what? Shortly after that, we started getting promoted.
Yeah.
All we wanted was and then we asked for an officers candidate school. Officers candidate school was gonna help the white firefighters too.
Yeah.
A positive discipline program, they called it. It's gonna help everybody to get fair treatment in the disciplinary process.
Right.
This is the kind of stuff that brothers generally ask for. Everybody's so happy, and y'all just, I haven't seen a lot of, because I ain't been in those stores, but I can tell you that Juneteenth, man, Juneteenth was fine as it was. We don't need no federal doggone holiday. For what? Everybody gonna be off, everybody, black, white, male, female,
We all.
enjoying that day, and we still talking about reparation. We gave y'all a holiday.
That's right.
Y'all ought to be
That's
happy.
what they keep giving. They're not gonna give you no money.
No money.
They're not gonna give you no power.
No.
You know, why does the because there's the ADL that I saw like with Kyrie Irving when Kyrie Irving put that video out,
Right.
and the ADL came back and it was this big problem. You know, where are our like? Because I don't see the NAACP really getting that much done when things happen to black people, or there's not like local chapters that are able to unite the black voice at the legislature or something like that. Why is that? Why are we struggling with that so much? Because that seems to be the thing. We need to have that
Do you know
united
that
leader.
white folks
Mm.
were the main folks who helped to start the NAACP?
Oh well.
And I think that control remains because when you talk about the corporate donors to the NAACP, they better not step out of line saying things that they don't think that we like as a corporation. You say that, we're going to cut this funding off. So they are very, very careful. And they have attorneys, tell them, man, I don't think you need to step into that. So that's my humble opinion.
So I see it from a perspective that they may not see that as their place. They see their place as representing the working man
Okay.
against violators in big business. So
Okay.
big corporations, remember they filed suit against Wells Fargo
Yeah.
twice
Right.
for violating for
Mhm.
Mortgage.
mortgage fraud
Right.
against black people,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they took a settlement.
Mhm.
So then they settle, and they sell to the banks. The bank says, well, we're gonna just take a thumbprint and we'll cash poor people's check. We won't force them to pay a fee just because they don't have a bank account. But the dollars that they sued from, that went into the coffers. I think when you look at professional athletes and entertainers, and I think they had something to do with the guy that was on the one show. They came out and made a statement and then found out some days later that, it didn't happen the way he said it did. So they don't want egg on their face.
Right.
Right.
But typically, they're fighting the super large corporation
Okay.
for the little guy and participating in that. As we know, we don't have an advocate
Yeah.
that fights for the little guy.
Right.
We don't have a advocate that's fighting for the small business
Right.
because we're missing that unity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And until we bring in the unity and until we understand capitalism, and I keep preaching it and preaching it because I know people don't understand. Because if they understood, they wouldn't do what they do.
Right.
Think about this. I get me a hat that says Gucci.
All right.
I got me a shirt that says Prada. I got me some pants that say Nike.
Yeah.
I got me some shoes on that say Adidas. Who am I?
Right.
I don't even know who I
Your
am.
billboard.
Right.
I'm buying somebody else's
That's what we do.
name to wear it
Yeah.
so that people will think I'm somebody.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
What has happened to us over the past 400 years, it's going to take hundreds of years to correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read a thing not so long ago, and it talked about, and I know they're still doing it, but this is back in the 50s and 60s. They studied black folks.
Of course.
And they say they love to have these award ceremonies. They hand out
Like
these
shiny
plaques.
things.
Yeah. And they just love it. So we're going to give them more of it.
That's
Right.
right.
And that's what they do.
Yeah.
But I tell you, man, I agree that if we could collectively get together as a people And it's not gonna happen where everybody's gonna come. We understand that.
Right.
But I think more people should be willing to come to the table and to agree to disagree. Because sometimes we
That's
fall
right.
out, man. We
Yeah.
just,
That's right.
man,
Yeah.
and I'm that way to an extent myself. There's certain people, man, when I see them, I just wave, but I don't want to have nothing to do with you because
Right.
you're a snake to me.
Yeah.
And you are worthless.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe when the guys, when they go to the restroom, they squat. They don't hang it out. They squat because they're afraid of their shadow, man. And that's just the truth of the matter.
So in closing, you got any closing comments about what you think, what the legislature may do or may want to do if they approve it, and if they don't, we don't have nothing to worry about? Or should they approve it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they will, just because Vegas is the entertainment capital of the world. But obviously, the locals take the hit, which we've seen it happen multiple times, and I guess we might see it happen again. So it's a problem. But maybe conversations like this will push us forward to maybe next time something of this, maybe not of this magnitude, but when something else comes to the city. There's an effort to make it more equitable for the community.
Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, as I did a little bit of research, Frank, one of the things that I found is that on a national level, the average white, 68,000 annual income, blacks 48,000. It's $20,000, and then the gap is even more in certain situations. But that was the age group from 40 to 60. Should they? I think they will, as you've already indicated. But the thing that you mentioned, Frank, early, I think is novel, and it should be considered that if we're going to do this, let's make sure that on these tickets, something comes back for the homeless, whatever categories we think are most important.
Right.
There will be some give back to the community. And I think it makes sense because when you consider how many people go to different games, etc., that can be a lot of money. And they need to at least explore the idea of what can we bring back to our community.
Right.
And the other part certainly is jobs that will last. And see, the other thing that we have a lot of our elected officials always harp on, we're going to have this jobs bill. Man, what about some business? And the folks who have business, allow them an equal opportunity to get access to capital, which continues to be a problem for us.
Yeah.
Continues to be a problem. I remember we had a credit union. Man, everybody wanted to put in $100.
And take out 10,000.
Right. And then we kept explaining that ain't how a credit union is. It runs based upon what the people put in. A banks like us, the people who are on the board, we were volunteer. We didn't get paid. Now a bank, you ain't gonna be on their board if you ain't got no money.
Right.
You Frank probably have been invited to be on a couple banks, because you gotta have some money, and from that, they do certain things that I've seen again from our new ventures business. There's guys who had bad credit ratings
Let me close by saying,
that didn't get no money.
so I think the legislature should not approve it right now.
Yeah.
The legislature is supposed to end in a few days.
Mm-hmm.
They should negotiate some more. I think they should create a profit sharing that the city or the county gets some of the money back.
Yeah.
I think they need to create a ticket sharing, so some of the money goes to the homeless, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
As we talked about, some of the money goes to education.
Right.
And I think until there is a community benefits plan that is inclusive
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and does not dilute, but inclusive of African American people, non-union, union from workforce, because we need to look at the unions too.
Mm-hmm.
Who are they hiring?
That's right.
If all of us are sitting in a room, but we call you by, hey, you got a 3-year job,
Right.
you got a 3-month job,
Yeah.
I got a 3-day job.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We need to look at the unions too, but everything needs to
I
be
agree.
reviewed, and hopefully they'll make the right decision. But I'm concerned about the A's because people don't have nothing good to say about them,
Yeah.
especially people from their own community.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
Well, it's like if you can only draw about 6,000 and you're the third largest baseball stadium, something is
Something's
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So until next time, I want to thank my guests, Kyle, Dave,
Pleasure to be
and
here.
thank y'all for tuning in to Through My Lens, and we'll see you next time.
Nevada Bill SB 509. Nevada Bill SB 509 proposes up to $380 million in public funding to help construct a $1.5 billion, 30,000-seat stadium for the Athletics baseball team on the Las Vegas Strip. The bill has been presented as a significant investment opportunity for the state and a way to further establish Las Vegas as the sports capital of the country, with supporters emphasizing the creation of thousands of jobs and the establishment of a publicly owned community asset. The funding package is described as being fiscally responsible, with no new taxes being imposed on Nevada residents or guests. Built-in guarantees are intended to protect the public investment, including reserves to backstop repayments of the public funds. The public funds for the stadium would come from a combination of transferable tax credits issued by the state and public bonds issued by Clark County, to be paid off through tax revenues generated by the stadium via Sports and Entertainment Improvement District. However, the bill has faced opposition, with critics noting that the funding for the stadium could be better used for other community needs like education and housing. In addition, there has been pushback regarding the A's team's track record and concerns about their commitment to community benefits. The bill proposes that construction of the stadium would begin in 2024 or 2025 and complete in 2028. It's estimated that the stadium could draw more than 2.6 million people annually, including an average of 28,000 attendees per baseball game, despite the team's current low attendance rankings.